Can you give us some examples of just the general intrusive thoughts that our men are struggling with right now?
So the biggest one is, am I good enough? Or sometimes it sounds like I'm not good enough.
Wow.
And you can put whatever word before the word enough, but
Hmm.
one of my favorite authors is John Eldridge. His way of saying it is, do I have what it takes?
Mm.
Do I have the right stuff? Am I on the right track? Any version of that. That is the biggest question that haunts men. And a lot of times, like I said, it's not just a question, it becomes this label that we either put on ourselves or somebody else put it on us unwillingly. Is that, yeah, I'm not enough, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, whatever the thing is. But guys are hardly ever going to verbalize that.
Yeah.
Most guys probably don't even have that. Don't they? Probably don't even know that that's operating under the system, under the surface, but it's in there in some form or fashion. So my favorite thing is to help a guy figure out, like, what is your version of that, and then we can figure out, like, okay, when did this start? Was it one particular moment? Was it a lot of moments that kind of stacked up on each other?
Yeah.
Because that if that thought is operating under the surface, you probably don't even realize it, and it's becoming like a pair of sunglasses that you wear, and that's the filter that you see your whole life through. So
Yeah.
if that's the thought, is like some version of I'm not enough, then yeah, you dig yourself all kinds of holes, and you end up choosing behaviors to either prove other people wrong or prove yourself wrong, that, like, no, I am enough, but then a lot of those behaviors reinforce, unfortunately, and dig us even further into the hole.
That makes so much sense. And it's just so interesting to me the parallel as we're dealing with children who are coming from trauma. And I'm sure, and I'm just going to assume, and I want you to speak into this, Trey, that our dads, our husbands are going to take a back seat in processing what you just described for us because we're so busy, and we as women can be guilty of just surrounding our kids and working through that process, whether we've adopted or fostered a boy or a girl. We're leaning into all of those things, and we're trying to speak worth into them. In the meantime, our dads are figuring out what's my role now, especially
Hmm.
because statistically speaking, and this is not true for everybody, for every family, but statistically speaking, it's typically the wife or the mom in the family who pushes for embracing, through foster care or adoption. And so there's this shift in dynamic of, okay, we've added another person to the family. They're very high need in a lot of ways. There's a lot of process that is involved in bringing the child into the home. And so where does that place dad and husband, in the midst of the family dynamic? And so that's another reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, Trey, because I think it's so important for us to see the crucial role of the man in the household. And so if he's already struggling with that question of, am I enough, or some version of that, and then you throw this dynamic, I mean, there can really be some relational setbacks here and some identity setbacks, I feel like. So do you want to speak into that at all?
Yeah, man, where do I even start? There's so
Right?
many good angles on that. No, so first of all, you can't give what you haven't received, and so yeah, no matter what situation you're walking into, you got to make sure you're as built up as possible and as filled up as possible, because it's got to be out of an overflow.
Yeah.
And if in an adoption situation, the first thing that comes to my mind is every little boy that I know of, at least, including myself, we were all obsessed with superheroes growing up. Like,
Yeah.
we wanted to rescue and save the day and do the job that nobody else could do and defeat the bad guy. And like, one of my favorite videos of my nephew, when he was like 2 years old, he dressed up in this Batman outfit, and his dad would turn on the Batman soundtrack, and he would just like fight the air to the Batman soundtrack. I'm like, the dude's two. He can't
I
even
love
speak
it.
words, but there's something innate in him that wants to come through and save the day. And so
Yeah.
I think in an adoption process, like, I can't imagine more of a real life superhero than somebody choosing to father this child that has literally no other option unless I come through as a dad for this kid. Nobody else is
Mm.
going to step in as the father for him. So
Yeah.
to me, what an incredible calling and what an incredible responsibility. And then, as we're getting back to it, it gets heavy. So I think there's so many steps I could recommend, but first of all, just start figuring out what's going on in your body. Like, that was the biggest breaking point for me, because I lived in my head for so long. The fancy word is intellectualizing, but I didn't even know it. But I had cut myself off from the neck down. I had no
Mm.
idea what was going on in my nervous system. So
Wow.
I realized one day, like, I can't feel anything. Like, the only emotions I feel are anger and occasionally like some nervousness, very occasionally. But I would just basically oscillate between numb and angry. I'm like, this is not actually how I'm supposed to live. So
Right.
it took a while to dig through the cement that I didn't even know that I had put in there or life had put in there. And but once I started getting an awareness of like, okay, I feel something in my like the left side of my stomach. What is that trying to say? I just treated them as messengers. And that over time really freed me up to realize, okay, here's when my body is telling me, yeah, we're good. And here's when it's telling me, no, we need some attention, like a check engine light in a car. Like
Yeah.
the light's not the problem. It's just telling you to check what needs some attention under the hood. And I think men in general just need to build that skill of checking in with their body every now and then, 2 or 3 times a day, maybe, and just see what it's telling them. And God made our bodies on purpose for that. There's the whole
Right.
mind body connection that if we ignore, we're just doing it to our own detriment.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And again, it's just so interesting to me how that parallels with what we're doing, as we're working with children who've experienced trauma. We're saying the same things. And so I think it's just so helpful to have this reminder from you to check in. Like I always say on the show, like God is parenting us as we parent our children.